All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for daily videos on everything going on in the cryptocurrency space. If you are a Chainlink holder, if you're thinking about getting involved in Link, this is the video for you. Today, we are joined by fellow YouTuber, one of the best in the game, Ben Cowen, also known as Into the Cryptoverse. Now, he approaches his channel more from a TA and data analytics point of view. So it's going to be really refreshing and interesting. He has a bunch of charts to share with us. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been following you guys actually well before I even started my own channel. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy that you guys cover the news because that's the biggest complaint about my channel is that I don't talk about the news that much. So it's great to be here.
Great to have you here. And could you introduce your background a little bit for us? I know you're an undergrad. You got your undergrad in math, and then you got a PhD in nuclear engineering. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely have like a big math and data analytics background to back up all these charts that you share.
Yeah, I mean, so basically the idea is, anyone who does like a STEM major, there's like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you sort of know how to manipulate data, use Python, code, that sort of stuff, data science. And the idea is, I didn't come from like a background in finance or anything. Sort of picked it up along the way, but I more so just look for long-term trends in the market, long-term patterns. Some of them play out how I think, some of them don't. I would like to think, I'm right more often than I'm wrong. But I think that the key thing is to realize that short-term moves are very difficult to predict, and I don't try to do that. And I just use more of a data science perspective to sort of investigate what's going on in the market and what are some theoretical limitations to price pushes, and what's the downside risk. Okay, because a lot of people always talk about what's the upside potential, but a lot of people won't discuss like the downside risk to any given asset. So that's sort of what we cover on the channel. Try to keep people grounded, generally speaking.
I love that. I'm excited for this conversation about Chainlink.
Me
Yeah,
too.
let's jump right into it. Ben, I know you have some charts to share. If you could give us just a brief introduction on what Chainlink is and get right into it.
Yeah, so you can see my screen just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so generally speaking, Chainlink it's a decentralized Oracle network that provides real world data to the blockchain, right? So it connects you to the blockchain. And it's the leader in this. And obviously there's a lot of, there's competition, right? Any good thing that happens in the space, there's going to be competition. I mean, right, like you look at Ethereum and you look at all the competition that Ethereum has brought on. And so Link has its own competition, but Link is one of the ones that it stands the test of time. And in crypto, it's easy to chase whatever the latest and greatest altcoin is, but what I think is more important is to go after the coins that stand the test of time, because the headaches of and the stress of watching a coin go up one day and then come crashing back down 70-80% the next, to me it's not worth it. I'd rather just stick to the ones that stand the test of time. And so this first chart is the valuation of Link against Bitcoin. So I know you guys are huge Bitcoin bulls, and so one of the things that I think it's important that everyone should do, and it's not natural, but is to value your portfolio in its valuation against Bitcoin, not USD. Okay. I'm not a fan of deterministic thinking, but if I were to think deterministically about any crypto, it's that Bitcoin is going up over the macro scale, and that increasing your Bitcoin stack is not a bad idea. Or if you're a Link Marine, like a lot of people watching this are, you can use these types of things to increase your Link stack. Okay. So anyways, this chart right here, it's just the Link Bitcoin valuation. Note it is on a logarithmic scale versus time, and it's color coded by this risk metric that I've made. And the risk metric it's basically just a function of, it's not complicated, it's just a function of price, time, and volatility to sort of give us an idea of what is theoretically possible based on what it's done in the past. So we sort of operate under the impression that it won't do something it already hasn't done in terms of volatility against Bitcoin. It doesn't mean it can't go to higher valuations against Bitcoin, because that's generally what it does, but it just means how quickly can it move up seems to be governed by how quickly it's moved up in the past. And while of course there can be times where we overshoot that, or we maybe do test what's theoretically possible, more times than not, we sort of just go back to where we were in the past. And it's hard to sort of quantify the risk level when you color code it like this. But if you take the color out of it, and you just look at the risk on the secondary y-axis, which is the yellow line, you can see that we go to this upper risk band about every 12 to 18 months or so. Okay, we went there back in January 2018. We went there in July of 2019. We went there in July, August of 2020. And every time we're there, everyone gets super, super excited, and it's going to keep going up forever. But we have to say, hey guys, wait a second. We've been here before, and we know that when it gets this far extended, a lot of times there can be a cool off phase, especially as people take profits back to Bitcoin. And this is something we covered back in the summer as we went into this bubble. Since then, you can see we've had a major cool off period. I mean, look where we are today. And the last time the Link Bitcoin valuation, or the Link Bitcoin risk was in this area, I mean, it goes back all the way to 2018. And so one thing to consider about Link, and the reason why I love holding it, is because it tends to move in very different ways than a lot of other altcoins with respect to Bitcoin. Okay, how many altcoins have a Bitcoin valuation that looks like that? I mean, not many. And so when Bitcoin's not moving like crazy, that's often when Link can shine. And so I think it's a good asset to hold. And also when Bitcoin's doing well, I mean, we've seen Link's, it's not like Link's been underperforming by any means. It's been underperforming against Bitcoin. But I'm hoping that maybe sometime later this year, I'm sort of hoping this summer that we'll see another surge back up to the top of these risk levels. But the implication of a Link valuation surge against Bitcoin comes with the idea that Bitcoin volatility has to diminish. We know that if Bitcoin volatility stays high, Link's probably not going to make a major run against Bitcoin, just because that's what history tells us, I guess. So
very, very interesting question on this chart right here. Sure. I see it's right. The yellow right now is right at the 0 level risk. Does that mean that we're not overvalued in risk in terms of Bitcoin terms, and we're not undervalued? We're completely neutral right now.
The 0, is this 0.5? You mean 0.5 or?
Well, the yellow's under it.
Oh, right. So historically, I should explain this a little bit better. So what I do, so in order for me to accumulate Chainlink, two things have to check for me. Okay. The first thing is I like to see the Link Bitcoin risk below 0.65. And you can see that that's where, I mean, we basically were range bound between 0.5 and 0.65 whenever we came back down to this sort of accumulation phase. So that's the first thing, is it has to be between or below 0.65. The second thing I would say is that the Link USD risk for me has to be below 0.5. This is the Link USD risk, and here it is on the where you take the color code out of it, and you can see here. I personally just like waiting until it gets down to these levels. However, I will say, and this is an important thing to note, newcomers to the space, and this goes for Bitcoin too. Newcomers to the space, I always like to say it's too risky not to hold these assets. And that comes from the perspective of a multi-year time frame, right? Anything can happen in 6 months, okay? Anything can happen in a year. But when you look at, say, like the 4-year ROI of Bitcoin, you would be hard-pressed to find a time where it hasn't given you a 10x. There have been times, and it won't stay like that forever, but it stands the test of time. And so if you're new to the space, I would always say you could come in and DCA into the market at a higher risk level, but just recognizing that you're coming in at a slightly higher risk level. But as long as you're patient and you just wait, usually these assets will pay off in the end. And we've seen Bitcoin do that for years and years and years. And also Chainlink's been doing it since 2017 as well.
Very interesting. Would you, I loved what you said about valuing it against BTC, and especially in a bull market, that's when the altcoins do super well. Against USD, or maybe against Bitcoin, do you have any end of the year projections based on the data you're looking at for Chainlink?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things we've looked at. So the Link Bitcoin valuation peaked at around 170,000 Satoshis last summer. And so it seems like it's possible for us to make it back to that level. Again, these are prior milestones that it's made it to. I think we could obviously go past that. I mean, if you go back and look at this chart, we'd have to go all the way back up here, which is a tall order. And I think it's possible for it to do that in 2021. I do. But the implication, again, is that Bitcoin has to calm down. Sort of like what we may be seeing now, right? I mean, Bitcoin, so Bitcoin has been putting in new all-time highs, right? Every month or so, it goes up another 3K. But when we take a look back at this market cycle and we zoom out, we're sort of going to see probably late January to early May, Bitcoin's mostly been going sideways, right? I mean, it has. If you go back 2.5 months, Bitcoin was at $58,000. And while we have been putting in new all-time highs, I think the future market cycle might remember this phase as sort of like a sideways movement. So if Bitcoin continues to do something like this, and doesn't do anything consequential for a few months, then I think that Link could have that run maybe as soon as this summer. And I think a 3-figure Link is in the cards. So I really do think a 3-figure Link is in the cards. If Bitcoin has a correction between now and then, we know that altcoins will correct harder. But as long as Bitcoin stabilizes somewhere, Link can then run again. And that's why I like Link is it over the course of time, it really just doesn't matter. It tends to gain against Bitcoin over the macro scale, right? Over the macro scale. And in fact, this is the first time we've seen it significantly cool off like this in years. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I would also like to show you guys, this is a really interesting chart. This shows the valuation of Link, and it color codes it based on whether Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average or below its 20-week moving average. What do you notice? Well, when it's above it, it's color coded red. Link goes parabolic. When it's below it, it's not like Link has the worst time in the world. From the time that Bitcoin is, say, below its 20-week to when it gets back above it, the valuation of Link in USD mostly remains unchanged, whether it goes down and then up, or up and then down, or down and then up. It mostly remains unchanged, which a lot of altcoins can't claim. A lot of altcoins bleed significantly during that time, and a lot of altcoins still aren't even at their prior all-time highs from 2017 or 2018. Link passed its all-time high from 2018 back in 2019. So it just sort of shows you how having a healthy Bitcoin is crucial for a lot of altcoins, right? We don't need a parabolic Bitcoin to see a healthy Chainlink. We just need a Bitcoin above its 20-week moving average. If you color code it based on Link Bitcoin's value, or if you color code it based on whether Bitcoin's above or below the 20-week again, but we show the Link Bitcoin valuation, you can see that there's not a clear trend other than it just tends to go up over time. And this is the first time in a long time where we've seen something like this, but it's also the first time that Link has ever been a part of a Bitcoin bull run. Link was launched over here in 2017, and at that time, Bitcoin was at the end of its bull run, and at the end of a 2-year bull run, or even longer, really. And so Link's never experienced a Bitcoin bull run, and we sort of speculated that it might not be able to keep pace with it, because when Bitcoin moves up, basically the entire market kind of just watches. And so the idea now is, okay, are we going to be able to get back on track or not? And I'm hoping that we will, right? I'm hoping that we will. This is the last custom charts I have for Link, but I really think this is a great chart to show. It shows Link, Ethereum, and Bitcoin's ROI normalized from inception. Okay, so one of the things that people talk about a lot is, okay, well, you shouldn't invest in Bitcoin because altcoins give you a higher ROI. Well, it's not a fair comparison, because you're comparing like a $1 trillion asset to something that maybe is like a few tens of millions, right? It's a lot easier to move these coins. There are not many coins that come anywhere close to what Bitcoin put in early on, right? There's hardly anything close to it. And if they do, like, there are some coins that'll contend with it early on, but they don't stand the test of time. Even Ethereum isn't even on pace with it. And this would have corresponded with a Bitcoin bear market over here. So, but what you do notice is that Link is actually, at this same point in time, Link is actually ahead of Ethereum. And you might say, well, that's not fair, because you're looking at it from, it's crossing it when Ethereum was in a bear market. Well, I mean, Link went through this bear market over here too. It just didn't care. It just didn't care. It just started moving up. So I would say the one caveat to this is it's somewhat cherry picking because we're just measuring it from the normalized ROI, not say like whatever the bottom was. If we measured it from Ethereum's bottom, this chart would look a lot different. Okay. But then you're cherry picking that data point as to oppose, say, whenever it launched. So again, that is a little bit of cherry picking right there. But the point is to show you that, Link is on one crazy journey. And it's already putting in a modest 200x over the last 3 years or so, 3.5 years, really, a modest 200x over the last 3 years. And if anything, I mean, momentum is with us. I think with Link, time is on our side, and it's just a matter of time before we go to that 3-figure level. I mean, I know you asked me about where I could see it going. I think it could make it to $100. To the 3-figure level, maybe higher, right? Maybe $200, but I think it can make it to $100 this year. That would probably be predicated on Bitcoin stabilizing at some point and not constantly flirting with price discovery.
Wow, a $100,000 Chainlink, possibly even a $200,000.
No, $100.
Sorry. I got.
Did I say 100? Did I say 100,000?
No. I said that. I was thinking of Bitcoin probably. Okay. My bad. I got ahead of myself. You're a $100, a 3-digit Chainlink to $200 Chainlink. That's, as you said, man, the trend is your friend, and you can like Link, you can dislike Link, but when the metrics are trending up, you shouldn't fight the trend.
Right. And I always say don't marry an altcoin, right? You got to divorce it when it's the time. But I mean, I in the grand scheme of the cycle, in the grand scheme of the market cycle, I feel like time is generally on our side. And hey, there's going to be dips along the way. There's going to be corrections. We know that, and we've seen that every cycle so far. But it doesn't really change sort of like the grand vision of where Bitcoin is headed. Because actually, coincidentally, I do think that Bitcoin is headed to $100,000 to $200,000. But yeah.
Me too. I actually have a few personal bets with my friends regarding Bitcoin hitting $200,000. Anyway, you want to take us off this screen share, and then we'll finish up our discussion?
Sure.
Well, I have one final question, Ben. Appreciate you sharing all this stuff with us. And again, guys, everybody should be subscribed to Ben's channel. Link is in the description. But my question is this. I know the 5 coins that you're fans of on your channel are Bitcoin, ETH, Polkadot, ADA, and Link. As you said, it's hard to compare Bitcoin, a $1 trillion asset, to these lower cap coins. But as far as your personal conviction goes, what percentage of your crypto portfolio is Link?
So giving a specific number is not. I'll give you a range. Okay. So giving a specific number, it's hard to do because we know that how volatile crypto is, right? I mean, like what my percentage was last week could easily be different than what it is this week, not because Link has done anything remarkable, but it has. I mean, it has gone up a few dollars, but because Ethereum has been climbing like crazy, and Ethereum is a higher percentage of my portfolio than Chainlink is. So generally, Bitcoin is my highest percent, and I try to keep that. Typically, again, there can be exceptions to the rule, but I try to keep Bitcoin between 50 to 90. 90 is sort of like the upper end, and that's sort of like if you're taking all your profits from altcoins back to Bitcoin at the end of the market cycle, and then Bitcoin crashes, and then if altcoins crash, they crash harder than Bitcoin, so then you end up being like 90% Bitcoin. And then 50%, I think, is sort of the lower bound, because when you get too far below that, you're really testing the waters there, and we know what happens when the market goes down. So for Link, I generally like to say probably somewhere between, for me about 10 to 15%, which is probably among the highest altcoin positions I would have. Bitcoin being number 1. Ethereum being number 2, and then Link, ADA, and DOT. And by the way, I always say it, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, ADA, and DOT. And the reason I say it in that order is because that's the order I think they should be. And so yeah, I would say somewhere around that percentage. But again, I think that we do a lot of analysis on the channel related to Sharpe ratios, Sortino ratios, looking at modern portfolio theory to come to these portfolio weights, not just throwing a number in the air, but how do you maximize your risk-adjusted returns? And personally, I think 10 to 15% Link is great, and you can't really argue with the results. I mean, it's been doing phenomenally well over the last several years.
I love it, Austin. Any final questions?
Great conversation, Ben. I hope you come back again and share some more of your charts about Chainlink and other altcoins as well.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on the channel. I really appreciate it.
We're releasing another video with Ben about ADA, Cardano, so look forward to that, and we will see you tomorrow.